Most people will have to make a series of big financial decisions at some point in their lives. Now, it could be deciding on a degree, buying a house, moving abroad, organizing a wedding, starting a business, or even just buying the right TV or computer. And whenever we have to make any financial decision, it's super important to make sure you take your time to make sure you get the right one. The last thing you want is to make the wrong decision and have to spend even more money to correct it. And especially when it involves a whole load of cash. And because making major financial decisions is no easy task, here are just some of my favorite tips that could help you make better financial decisions before you take the plunge. Tip number 1 is to establish your priorities. Now, with most things in life, we always have priorities, especially when it comes to what is really important to us. So even if you have a list of financial and non-financial decisions or goals you would like to achieve, chances are you will know which ones are the most important to you. But realistically, you won't be able to fulfill all of them at the same time. Therefore, you need to prioritize them in order of importance. Now, one way I like to do this is to make a list that will separate my wants from my needs. So for example, you may be dreaming of getting your forever house very soon. It could be this one nice 4-bedroom detached house with a huge garden that just so happens to have these bifolding doors that open up straight into your tropical garden with a nice view of the countryside. Or maybe that's just my dream. Or it could just be that you also want to go on a dream vacation for your 30th birthday. And because it's such a big birthday and it's getting closer and closer, you want to make the most of it. In most cases, most of us would prioritize the birthday over the house and think about the house much later on. So it's important to prioritize your financial decisions based on what you really want or need. Another way to do this is to prioritize based on timescales. Let's say, for example, you need something urgently, like a car. Then it may be a good idea to put this at the top of your list over your birthday celebrations. This doesn't mean that you should ignore your long-term goals and just shift them to a much later date, but the key point here is to list out all your financial decisions and then prioritize them, as this will help you focus on what and how to divide your time and your energy. Tip number 2 is to make sure you do thorough research. So once you have a list of all your decisions prioritized, it's important to do your research and find the best way to undertake your big financial decision. So let's say that it is actually your big birthday this year and you're planning on having a massive celebration. Well, the first thing you could do is to have a browse and look at prices. Or let's say, for example, you're planning on purchasing a home. It's important to make sure you research all there is to know about the process of purchasing a home and how much money you will need for the entire process, and not just focusing on the deposit only. The key point here is not just make a decision just because you want something, but for these big financial decisions, it is so important to make sure that you have clear, informed, and defined ideas of how much it will truly cost you, and that will help you not only plan efficiently, but also increase your chances of making sure it is the right decision for you. Tip number 3 is to weigh out the pros and the cons. So now we have a list of all your priorities. You've done your research. The next thing is to weigh out the pros and the cons of making that financial decision. And that's for every single option you have. I know it may end up being time consuming, but trust me, it is completely worthwhile, as it will help you make smarter choices, and of course, you'll get a complete picture of all the scenarios that are possible. So let's take the example that if you prioritize that you wanted to buy a car, you would then research to find the model and make that you want. The next thing you want to do is list out the pros and cons of, for example, whether you want to purchase it outright or get it on finance. The same can be done for listing out pros and cons of which model and make you would like. And of course, if you're struggling to find the benefits and cons of each decision you have to make, then maybe consider asking those around you for help. And that's because they'll be able to bring a new perspective which could help you choose the right option for you. For instance, Whenever I have needed to purchase a car, I have always asked my brother for help. I will usually do the research to find out if I want to buy a car, for example, from an auction, from a private seller, from a dealership, or even maybe consider purchasing on finance. But before I do this, I always heed the advice of my brother. And that's because he knows way more about cars than I could ever imagine. And this has always helped me to make a good and wise financial decision. Then the next step you want to do is to make an actionable plan. Now, to ensure maximum success with your financial decisions, you will need to plan ahead. Therefore, before you make that big purchase, you will still want to make sure you review your financial situation and see where you currently stand from a money perspective, especially if you need to consider getting anything on finance or on credit. If you currently don't have much left over after you've paid your bills and your expenses, then you might actually want to consider a savings plan before you make that purchase. And one way to do that is to ensure you have an effective and efficient budgeting system in place. Now, I've done a video that shows you how I budget on a month-by-month basis. So if you want to, you can check out this video, which I will link up here, and I will also link down in the description box below. Alternatively, you can just wait for your situation to improve before you take any action towards any big financial purchases. But if you are in a good financial position and your finances are in good shape, then you're good to set out an action plan to work out exactly how much you need and how often you need to put aside to reach your financial goals and make that purchase. Now, it doesn't have to be thousands and thousands of pounds and financially stretch yourself, especially if you can't afford it. Being realistic is important when it comes to taking big financial decisions. There's no point in getting yourself into a lot of debt just for a shiny new car or some luxurious wedding. If anything, use what you already have, be consistent, and keep up the effort. After all, if you save £100 a month for 5 years, that's £6,000, and that's a pretty good sum right there. And whilst you're at it, always consider your future self when it comes to financial decisions. For most of us, when it comes to these big money decisions, it's usually for things that we anticipate will last us for several years. Even when it comes to purchasing a TV, most of us think about that TV lasting us at least 5 to 10 years, or maybe that's just me and my decisions. Therefore, when it comes to making big financial decisions, it's always important to be intentional and to think about the long term. However way you want to define what long term is to you, having a long-term vision and thinking about later life will not only be wise, but will also save you money in the long run. So instead of getting carried away about wanting something just for the now, consider what impact it will have for you in the future. For example, if you're purchasing something, it's important to consider whether or not you should save for it and pay for cash later on, or if you should purchase it on finance now and what impact it will have on your future finances, especially if it means that you will have to take on a huge debt that you will still be paying back in 10 years' time. Let me know in the comments below, what steps do you take to make big financial decisions? What are your favorite tips, tricks, hacks that you use? Please make sure to hit that like button and to subscribe so that you don't miss any future uploads, as I'm sharing my journey to financial freedom and of course early retirement. Also, don't forget to check out these videos which will show you all these personal finance tips that I am currently implementing in my life that have not only helped me make good financial decisions, but have also saved me thousands of pounds. Please make sure to also share this video with someone who wants to make a positive impact on their finances. Thank you so much for all your support, and I will see you in the comments below and of course in the next video. Do take care. Bye.